you doing? Please say hi in the comment section and let me know where you are joining me from. Hi everyone, my name is Flora Daisy. I am a digital accessibility expert and founder at Lenoratech. Well, Lenoratech is an incredible company with the value and mission to support and help tech leaders and professionals create inclusive and accessible digital product for everyone. And I mean it, everyone, including customers or employees with visible or invisible disabilities. When we are talking about digital technology or products, I am referring to making reference, I will say, to website, to application, and to digital document like PDF or PowerPoint and so on. So I am a black woman. I always smile, or some people will say, Flora, you always laugh, which is also true. I am currently rocking a medium length, well, hairstyle, braids with a waving kind of structure. It's brown and blonde at the end. I like to describe myself just because in the audience there are people who are blind and there are people with visual impairments. So enough about me. I want to talk to you about breaking stigma and how shifting mindset can actually create true inclusion and accommodation. And I have the perfect guest speaker to give us a little bit more insight in that topic. As you can tell, or maybe you cannot tell, I am originally from a small country called Burkina Faso in Africa. And when I grew up, I've learned that people who are sorry, I will just tell you what it is. You know me, I like to be blunt. People who have piercing and tattoos were actually bad people. And I've learned that from TV show. And fast forward, when I went to America, I've noticed that there are just sweet people, which kind of say that, I had biases, I have false belief just because I was listening to the media. But you know what? When it comes to accessibility and accommodation, there are certain things that are happening. You know what? I'm just going to shift right now and invite my incredible guest speaker on stage to help us understand how can we break stigma and learn more. So her name is Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hello, hello. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
I am super happy that you're here, Julie. Julie is an incredible person. She is a fervent, passionate advocate for disability. She's an author. She has an incredible book. As a matter of fact, let me share a little bit about her page so you can get to know her a little bit more. So, Julie is an author. As I said, she's an advocate. She's a consultant in accessibility. She's also one of the top LinkedIn voice, and she has more than 55,000 people that are following her. So this lady knows what she's talking about. She has a beautiful book that is actually available to purchase. The book name is Boldly Belong. And I'm actually curious. Julie, can you tell us a little bit more about this book? Can you hear me, Julie?
Yes, it is directed towards the disability community. And I found that when stigma, which we'll address later, because disability is so stigmatized, oftentimes our needs are denied, our needs are completely dismissed. We're told that we're wrong for what our body needs or interpreting our body needs. And so oftentimes we learn to people please. We learn to ignore our needs to please others. We learn to survive this world by really ignoring our own personal needs. Sometimes that leads to people pleasing, perfectionism, hyper independence, or things like that. And I really just go into stigma really in depth in this book, and then show actually harming. I saw it pause for a second there, but I go into how those things are actually harming versus helping us, and then give really actionable steps to be who you are and the power of being who you are in a world that doesn't always accept you.
I love that. I love that. Ooh, this is actually even opening the door for our topic. But before that, Julie, can you please introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us how did you started this journey? How did you started with, your passion for accessibility, disability?
I'm going to stop my camera and see if that helps,
That's totally fine. I think that Julie
or not
is
my fault,
having
but
a little
happening
bit
on
of
my
tech
end.
issue. Yeah, Julie is having a tech issue, but Julie, I will let me acknowledge people a little bit. I see a few comments. I see Paul. Paul said, "Hi from STL, looking for work with an inclusive company." Oh, that's great to know, Paul. I see also Jacqueline say, "Hi from PA." Hi, Jacqueline. Oh, Leah is here. She said, "Hello from WI. Glad to be here. I am so happy to see you." And we have Cheryl that says, "Hello from New Jersey, NG." I'm super happy to see you, Cheryl. And I see another person. I see a LinkedIn user. But you probably know who you are. Let me check on my second screen if I'm able to see your name specifically. Will I be able to do that? Oh, I think it's Vanessa. Is it Vanessa? Maybe it's not Vanessa, but I see Vanessa also said hi from New York. Yes, it's Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. Hopefully, we get Julie right back. Julie, can you hear us? Are you able to hear
Yes,
us?
I can hear.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So, can you tell us why
Can you
have you
hear me?
decided to jump in the field of accessibility? Why have you decided to be a disability advocate?
So for me, it's a real focus on disability inclusion. And my story starts 15 years ago when I had a brain injury. And I came out of that with no memories of previous life. So I was an adult at the time and came into the world with an adult brain, but with the understanding of a toddler, and had to relearn life essentially. This, meant I didn't know who Santa Claus was. I didn't know the alphabet. I relearned how to walk in basic social norms and how to be polite to people. I also relearned stigmas and discrimination and stereotypes and those things because I also forgot that. So it gave me a really unique perspective where I saw how a lot of the stereotypes aren't even based in anything factual, and stigma isn't even based in anything really logical, but it's just been passed down in societies for so long that it permeates everything that we do, how we see, how we especially include people who are different in any way. So disability specifically, that directly applied to me because after my brain injury, I had seizures. I obviously forgot the whole life, so was relearning things as an adult. And I also am autistic and have ADHD and some other mental things, but I immediately learned how people treated me differently in ways that didn't really make sense. And I saw how others were treated differently as well, due to their color of their skin, their religion, their age. And so from the very beginning, it didn't make sense to me. So I tried to fight against that and really aim to include people with disabilities by normalizing it and debunking the stigmas associated.
I like that. I like that. I think that your story and your experience and your journey is actually teaching us so much more, because definitely there is a belief that comes from culture, and some of those beliefs are not always true, as you said. So, if I want to be just clear, I want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. How will you define stigma? What is a stigma?
Stigma is a set of beliefs. Stigma is a set of beliefs around a specific thing, typically a difference or something that's not well understood, that it's a negative belief system around that. So it often originates because human brains do not really like what we don't understand, and we are scared. We can be scared of what's different. And so what our brains do naturally, this is a natural human function of our brains, it develops reasons for why somebody's different. Sometimes those can be positive, sometimes it can be negative, and that's where stigma is created. So maybe some diseases we're scared of catching them, so there's stigma because we don't want to catch their disease, and there's some that it's just, well, that color of skin is different, and so I'm scared of it because I don't understand it. Or disabilities, so many disabilities are not well understood, so there's stigmas that are attached to it that mean you're stupid, you're lazy, because we don't understand it. So our brains try to come up with some justification of it, which results in stigma. And a lot of it occurs from historical, but also from those who are in power, and teach us what to believe to perpetuate. And it feeds the laws, it feeds everything about how we interact with people. So that's what stigma is, where it originates, and why it matters.
Definitely, definitely. I would even say, I will ask the audience, where do you think stigma is originating as well? For me personally, I also will think that stigma also come from, the media, right? The media are always portraying certain things, and because of those illustration of funny joke that are not always funny, they are educating people in a certain way, around some community, like you mentioned, the Black people or people with disability, who often, usually on social, not social media, but on media like movies and things like that, sometimes they are illustrated in a way that call for empathy or pity, which is not fair. Black people are also illustrated in a certain way. So, I mean, even at the beginning of the show, when I was telling you the story of me believing that people with tattoos and piercing are bad people, that belief, that stigma in my head came from the fact that I watched a lot of content, a lot of movies where the bad people were the people with tattoos and piercing. But that's not true. When I went to America, I saw, oh gosh, incredible people with tattoos, incredible people with piercing. They were very kind people. I'm not saying that everyone is kind, but that was a false belief. And so you said before, and let me read first of all. Someone said hi, and Cheryl said, "Thank you for sharing your bio. It's important to understand disability covers so many conditions that many of us may not understand because it doesn't immediately affect us." Oh my goodness, this is so, so true. So definitely, Julie, she's saying thank you, because some disabilities are invisible, and people always think about disability with just people who are blind or people who are using a wheelchair. But there are a lot of invisible disability, and no one can tell, right? But Julie, you said that if we start challenging stigma, we will be able to really create true inclusion and accommodation for everyone. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yes. I think a lot of times we try to educate on disability, which can help to challenge stigma because, like I said earlier, a lot of stigma comes about because of what we don't understand. So our brains make up things that may or may not be true about it. So the more we understand, the more stigma is naturally challenged. However, a lot of times the way that we try to become more inclusive is by challenging language that exists. So, for example, disability or disabled, trying to change those words to special needs or differently abled, or even talking about, well, I don't have a disability, I have a superpower. And on one hand, that's not bad if that is empowering to you as an individual, but when it becomes something prominent where we're trying to erase disability and disabled as words, and what we're trying to do is remove stigma by changing the words instead of removing the stigma itself. If all we do is change the words, the stigma remains, right? And so it's really important to hit it at the root. And the root is stigma. And why does stigma exist? Because of incorrect beliefs because of misunderstandings, but not, I mean, disabled and disability are accurate words. If we look at the word itself, remove all stigma. So it's really important to me to challenge it at the root, which is stigma itself.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I see a couple of messages or comments. Again, if you want to say something, if you have any question, please share in a comment. I promise you we will get to them. I see Cheryl said, again, right, definitely more people think about wheelchair when they think about disability. She said also, but how many of us think about lack of ramps or at a supermarket that prevent wheelchair access if you're not in a wheelchair? That is so true, right? She said relearn how we view disability. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Cheryl. Definitely, Julie, you are so right. I think that it's almost like, going to a doctor and trying to fix the symptom instead of understanding the cause, the root cause of the problem. So you said it beautifully. Instead of just having a problem with just the language or the word used for, to express or to talk about disability, let's go back to the root cause and see how we can really change that narrative there and empower everyone. Because really, disability is not a bad thing. It's only that the world, right, the physical world or the digital world are limiting people. So we want to remove the barriers. The disability is not a barrier. But let me hear more on accommodation, Julie, because you said also that accommodation can easily negatively or positively impact stigma.
Yes, and specifically our view on accessibility and how we go about granting accommodations or what somebody needs. So, first, stigma, something that it inherently does is it others anyone who's part of that stigmatized group. So, your example of the tattoos, all of a sudden, that person who has tattoos is a tattooed person who's different than regular humans who might inherently be bad because they have tattoos, and now they're no longer seen as a human, they're seen as somebody who's tattooed. And so people with disabilities, it's the same thing. If somebody knows that we have a disability, then you're automatically seen as not just a normal human, but a disabled person, which means you're less than, which means you can't do things, which means you're not as intelligent. And obviously, these aren't really things that it means, but what stigma says it means. And
Yes.
so accommodations are a way that when we normalize accommodations are a way that we can reduce stigma because every human uses accommodations in everyday life. If you ever ask for a dish at a restaurant to have a ingredient added or have an ingredient removed, you're asking for an accommodation. If you're asking when you go and you purchase a car and a car doesn't have enough room, so you move the seat back or forward, or you pick a different car because it's not the right space, those are accommodations. Those are accommodations that are accepted as normal parts of being human, and they're built into your restaurant experience. They're built into your car buying experience. They're built into the car manufacturing experience where they make it so that somebody who's 6'4" or somebody who's 5 foot can drive the car. They build that in, so there's no stigma around it. So when it comes to accommodations that have to do with disabilities, I believe when you recognize those as normal human accommodations, it can reduce the stigma because it's a natural part of human life to accommodate each other and to ask for accommodations. It's a natural part of being human, and disability is a natural variation of being human. Just like eye color, just like hair color, it's a natural variation of being human. And once we can accept that, and that different needs and different preferences are also natural variations of being human, then accommodations become normalized. And the reason for the accommodations, disability sometimes, also becomes more normalized, reducing stigma.
I agree. I agree. And I think that oh gosh, you nailed it on the, I don't even know what is the expression for that. But I mean you just said it right. I think that most of the time we think disability in one side and other in the other side, but it makes no sense because as human being, I don't know about the audience, but we are all we are all aging, and with aging come maybe lack of ability. We might not be able to see, we might not be able to hear, we might not be able to touch. So really the disability is not asking the question if I have a disability or if they have a disability. It could be actually a when I have a disability. So everyone
Yes.
should be thinking about inclusive experiences for all. So when we think inclusion for everyone and we make sure that these tips that you're sharing, this insight that you're sharing are taken in consideration at the very beginning. Like you said it beautifully. You said, hey, listen, we make sure that houses have a, tall, maybe I would say door of entrance, because it can accommodate everyone who is short, tall, or medium size, right? So why are we not doing the same when it comes to accessibility? We do know that we have incredible people who are deaf. We do know we have incredible people with neurodiverse who are neurodivergent, right? We do know we have incredible people who are blind. Why are we not making sure that all of the accommodation for these fantastic people are already integrated? Why do we have to make it a them versus us, you know and I hear you on that. I think that it will be so much impactful if inclusion and accessibility is at the beginning of the conversation whenever we create something. I see a few people, Julie, who
Exactly.
also commented. Yes, I see Paul. Paul said, I just got rejected from another job opening for being deaf. Oh my goodness. This, I mean, even when Paul, thank you for sharing, Paul. I will read the rest of the information later on, but trust me, I will make sure to respond, and Julie also will respond as well. But Paul, what you said is so true. Accessibility, inclusion is everywhere. Is on accommodation, is in the hiring process, is in working on navigating a website. It's in, it's everywhere. So really, I am calling all leaders and all professionals. Let's think about inclusion at the very beginning. It's really important for all, and it creates really an opportunity for everyone to provide great information or great contribution. I see also Jenny who said, Paul Mayer, this is awful. It makes me so angry that companies are so openly discriminating. Oh my goodness. I definitely agree with that. What do you think about, hiring process for people with disability, if I may ask, Julie?
Well, as it ties to stigma, first of all, that's more of Paul's message talked about how he really was just asking for a very simple accommodation. And rather than granting that very simple accommodation to what he asked was to have the interview be video instead of a phone call, which is a very easy switch, a very, very easy accommodation. But they're not denying it because it's a hard accommodation. They're denying it because of the stigma attached. What does it mean if somebody's deaf? If somebody is led with stigma-led beliefs, it means they're less intelligent. It means they're less capable. It means I'm going to have to do more work to interact with them. It means, well, this is already too much trouble. Why even put in the effort? And it's all rooted in stigma. And so when we talk about starting, building an accessibility and inclusion from the beginning, that has to include challenging existing belief systems, because most people, the person who rejected Paul,
Yes.
probably talked to other people and said, oh, I had to reject this person because they were deaf. They requested this. It was too difficult. And other people probably agreed, because stigma runs so deep in societies. In every country, there's different specific stigmas. There's some that are common throughout the whole world, but there's some that change depending on cultures, depending on country, depending on location. But even religion, various religions include different stigmas. But my point here is that I want to highlight is that anytime you are not questioning your beliefs that are rooted in stigma, you're perpetuating it. And
Yes.
you're allowing others to perpetuate it. All it would have taken in that situation, Paul's situation, is the person themselves challenging themselves, why are they denying it, or one of their coworkers questioning them, or building it into a process and having a really quality accommodation approval and request process, who are also, taught what to do when somebody requests an accommodation, how to appropriately respond, how to respond in a good process way rather than stigma based way, and it's in that situation as
Yes.
easy as just building a good process out and ensuring that your employees follow it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that also just this experience that Paul shared with us is a proof that this company probably does not have a good process around inclusion and accessibility. Because if they do, it wouldn't probably have been the situation that he's experiencing. I do remember I have a friend also, Brendan Gilbert, an incredible guy who also is deaf, and it took him 9 months to find a job. Each time he goes for an interview, although he's disclosing his disability, they at the interview they start asking him if he can write his answer or type or text, or there is always already anxiety. When you go for an interview, you're trying to be your best and you're trying to answer the right question based on the job requirement and the interviewers. But then if you add to that the level of communication being a problem, it is even a bigger problem. So definitely, I think that you may you made a good point when you said that it starts with the belief. If that person had in his mind, the interviewer, that accommodation is something that is so important, it would have been probably a different experience. At least that's what I think. It could have been definitely a different experience. Julie, what kind of question do people usually ask you when it comes to accommodation in general, for accessibility?
Good question. So I work with individuals who are requesting accommodations, as well as organizations and teams and leaders who are implementing accommodation processes. So I'll give you a question from both. The most common question from those who are requesting it is, what's the best way? When should I do it? How can I protect myself while doing it? It's those three questions. And my answer for that is always what you can do most confidently. There's no right or wrong. There's pros and cons always, because stigma exists, because discrimination exists, because poor processes exist. So the best chance that you have is doing what you can do most confidently, knowing that yes, there's risks involved, but there's risks involved with waiting. There's risks involved with disclosing immediately. So I just really urge people to be their best version of themselves, whatever they can do most confidently. Now, on the other side, the most common question is, what can we do now to be more inclusive? And sometimes they might be asking about a very specific aspect of that, but I always say, look at your processes and look at your training. Do you have it built in where people can't, even if they have stigma, where the processes force them to either question their stigma or not lead with stigma? Because you can do that. You can build it into processes where you can reduce human error, where you can reduce human discrimination. So I urge people to build quality processes that are stigma free, and it enables improvement in that way, but also improved training about disability. Sorry about that.
I think the dog is
That's
agreeing with the statement.
yes.
That is so true. Education, training, and processes can help create true inclusion. It can help create true accommodation. I see Paul that said also that this interview that he had was with a major well-known company. That's why I say sometimes, even when I advocate for inclusion and accessibility and I'm helping leaders, many of them tend to say, oh no, we don't need help, we already have what's needed in the company, we already have someone checking the box. you know this is not working. Please, leaders, companies, open up the door, get a consultant like Julie to come and help you with looking at what is the gap here. How can we create a process together as a collaboration? Look for advocate in accessibility, like for web accessibility or digital product like me, to come and see also what kind of gap and how can we support. Do not close door, and again, listen to people with disabilities. They are the one who can tell exactly what they need. So make sure that you have a process to also get feedback. Trust me, that's the best way to create inclusion and accessibility for everyone. All right, I see Jennifer also shared something about Paul. Paul, simultaneously shocked and not surprised. I see this so often working with folks for to support them through the accommodation process. Oh my goodness, so true. Paul also commented and said, Jennifer, uh, I've worked in HR and TA and I can help with this. All right, so I see people are supporting each others in the comment. I love it. Beautiful community. All right, so we are at the end of the show. Julie, where people can get to connect with you, how can they be in touch with you?
On LinkedIn is the primary way. And if you search Julie Harris Disability Inclusion, it will pop up. Or obviously, part of this show, it'll be there. Also, email julie at accessmyability.org. And then if you're interested in purchasing the book, it is available on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, anywhere really books are sold. And pre-orders really, really, really help new authors. So it would be, I mean, hopefully you want it for yourself, but also it's a huge way to support not only me, but any other author you see who has books available for pre-order.
Definitely. Oh, I love it. I love it. So here you go. Please connect with Julie. She's a fantastic person. You can hear about her journey, about the information she shared freely online, but also go and purchase the book. I think that this is a big way to support incredible people who are advocating for disability and accessibility like Julie. You know, anything can support and help incredible people who are really trying to impact and make sure that everyone feel included. All right, that's it for today. Please join me next week for the next episode. And I'm always here to speak about accessibility, disability, technology, and maybe more. So I will see you next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.